So one of the key reasons for a large rate of unemployability which we face in our country now is, one of the major reason is the lack of efficiency in our education system. One of the reason for that maybe our education system is not training people based on the skill, and our current employability is done through just analyzing the skill of the employee. And so our focus should be based on changing, otherwise improvising the syllabus for improving our skills. So and this is against our education. So if I say like for this system, it would be like that's not the sole responsibility of the institution to enhance our skill. We should enhance our skill through participating in internships, then regular discussions with many faculties and then our colleagues, our classmates. So it's a major responsibility from our side also to improve our skills, so it can enhance our employability skill in the future. Then what else?
I would like to add to the point which I was saying, that our education system mainly focus on exam-oriented system, and they mainly focus to train the students for examination. They are lacking efficiency to practical knowledge in the specific area. In the areas like engineering, they are not getting enough practical sessions on their programming abilities, such things. So I would like that it's a valid point which contributed Adam.
But while I agree that there is a problem, crisis in our education system, but the employment crisis is not a direct consequence of lack of efficiency in education. It is essentially the government and the corporations for them to create employability, right? That is what they promise us. So while there might be a lack of quality employable force, but there are also no opportunities where these people can go and ask for jobs. That is the problem. The problem is not a consequence of how our education system is functioning. I don't think they are two separate problems that we need to look at.
I would like to add a point. I would like to add to your thing is that I think a part is from limitation of government. We know in foreign countries, most of the government are funding the students. That is why many of the students from India migrating to the foreign countries like Canada or this, because they have opportunities there. They are financially aiding the students. So I think one of the drawbacks of Indian education system is they are not enoughly providing the students financial support.
Adding to her, like we need resources, we need money, and we all know that there was a time when we didn't have this offline education at the time of pandemic and all, and people who are not having this requirement for digital resources is marginalized, and they are facing a lot of issues. Like this creates the digital divide, and also it ultimately leads to brain drain also, as they will go to other countries for education.
Although I agree to all of these points, I have come across this one information where NEP, National Education Policy, was a huge part in the field of education, where students were allowed to choose each certain skills or set of subjects which we actually did not major in. So you can select a subject and then get an experience if you want to continue an education or not. I think that adds a bit to the kind of workforce you want to enter in.
Normally, ideally, students are supposed to select vocation after completing their secondary level of education. But in India, it's like even after the tertiary level, we are finding it hard to find an area where we could put all our interest and our ideas into. And a major part of that, because a reason for that might be the curriculum that we are used to, the curriculum that we are following for the past, like for the decades, we have been following a similar pattern. Even though we add a little changes to that, we are following a similar pattern wherein we are trained not to meet up to the market demands. An industry or a company, they would demand a lot from us, but do you think that we are trained enough for that? if you make a person, for example, in a classroom, you give a task to the students, you let them tell them to write a letter, a business letter. Majority of them will be very hesitant in writing it because they don't know how to write a proper letter, even a proper letter. Even English students, many of them find it really hard to draft a proper letter, and that is actually a very pathetic situation.
I would like to say that one of the drawbacks of our education system would be that it is more academic based. It's like every time we are going on studying and comparing it to the foreign students, I guess we have areas like part-time jobs and everything which are not that much visible in India. And also one drawback that I think the pressure of these competitive exams also, students are like trained to focus on that exams, and it's like that the marks or the result of this exam determines or decides your future. So that's some areas that our education system should look into.
Like it's already said, Indian education system is primarily based on exam oriented, and we are studying the exam after exams, we are forgetting all the things. So we cannot live with that knowledge in a developing country. So it is a drawback of Indian education system. And the classroom discourse, that is very important here.
Just like what Alan said, it is because due to the lack of skills, because many graduated have the wrong skills for available jobs, so they may know a lot of theory, but lack of practices, abilities that employers want to work with. So this.
And also, students are having many programs like financial sufficiency of their all that are not considered in our education properly. This lead to many students having unemployment after they were graduated. Still they are facing the unemployment problem.
But again, with sufficient amounts of scholarship titles, you can actually apply for it and get money to get educated. But the sad fact is that not a lot of Indian students are aware of these schemes. Yes, exactly.
A sort of counseling is lacking all these institutions. Now only we are coming to know about these national scholarships and everything, and many people have missed it in the UG level. I came across with my friends and they informed that they didn't have any idea about that. So that's one reason the institutions can conduct one meeting or one counseling section every academic year so that they can advise the students to do what they do. Adding to that, the mental health is really important. There might be familial expectations and peer pressure, and I do think that every student is brilliant in their own way if we don't have these systems and these these examinations and all.
Even though we say our education system is inefficient, we can't just completely accuse this education system for everything. Most of the time now, I have heard a recent news that a person who have completed his engineering graduation in computer science get a salary of only around 20,000 in Infopark in Kerala and around 50,000 in IT company in Bangalore. It's a different thing. So, like what Sneha said already, the government missionaries have to invite these MNCs and have to ensure that every people gets enough employment in our state. Especially if we say it's a selfish thing to speak about only Malayalis, but if we consider only our state, I think it's a huge effort from government missionaries as well as the companies also have to take an effective measure in improving our salaries and all.
But I also think that our education system give more importance to this concept of memorization. It is not the point that how we express ourselves, but how much thing we actually memorize.
Memorizing is actually pretty much common. We can do it if we put some effort to it. But I think most of the students, what they lack is this interpersonal skills. Like how do you successfully communicate with the person or an official or a person who is not from your city or your background. Like, so strong interpersonal skills is what lacks the most among the students. And we can talk online with anybody. Like we know how to go online with anybody, but how can you talk to someone like in a proper manner, like with proper etiquettes? That's the question you also have to consider. And it's also a fact that India being this very big country with huge population, we can't deny the fact that we can actually go by the education system of the foreign country. It's different scenario here. But then it's high time that we change the pattern of how this education is going. As you said, memorizing things, or I think we should focus more on the application part. And these courses that have been offered, I think it's also from the part of the parents that they have to let the children have freedom to choose what they really want to do, rather than making them tools for fulfilling their childhood wishes and dreams.
I think as time passes by, the way the student is taken into school, that is given an admission, is totally different. Because when we come across students who are about to step to the kindergarten level, it is very difficult to get an education, to get an admission in a kindergarten level. And right after that, right after 10th, we would probably shift to another type of syllabus, probably from CBSE to state board, in my experience. And after plus 2, that is after PUC level, it is extremely difficult to get into a college. Because I still remember when I finished my plus 2, it was extremely difficult for a full A+ student to get admission in a college. Finally, I went to Bangalore and I finished my education from there, and I wrote a competitive exam and I came over here. So I wouldn't say that competitive exams are totally, it would completely affect your mental health, because it actually motivated me to study even more and to get into a government college, because it is how, it has made my life easier, it has made my parents' life easier, because it's closer to my home. It is financially a bit more comfortable for my parents to fund me. So I think guidance about the financial system should be instilled in students, it should be instilled in kids right when they are during their childhood, because a lot of students do not really know how to manage finances. They just think that money comes from trees, and that's not the truth. Let's just accept the fact. So a proper education on how finances should be there, savings and everything. It should be kind of a lesson that should be given to a child during their younger stages itself.
But the reason why there are competitive exams, like as you said, yes, it is really difficult to get into government university or government institution, but that's because we do not have enough institutions. The reason you're supposed to write a competitive exams and work so hard and toil so hard, which puts mental pressure on people, is because you do not have enough seats. And that's a responsibility of the state governments and central governments, because education is a concurrent subject. Both of them to ensure that there are enough seats and enough universities and affordability, as you said, for students to get education. It's not on the students to get motivated and to study and to acquire whatever they are. No, education is a right, and it is the government's job to ensure that right. We cannot keep sugarcoating or glorifying the mental pressure and stress that we all go through while writing an exam by just not holding the entity that is responsible for it accountable.
Yeah, I would agree with her, because the problem with competitive exams in India is reason is population. Because if you take the exams like NEET for this medicine exam and all, we can see that almost 24 lakh students are writing the exam, and still they are giving seats for only like nearly 13 lakhs. So we can see that how much a student's effort of 1 year is getting wasted. So the thing is that according to the population, they should raise the institutes and the seats also. That's the main point.
There is also a decline that is seen that is during our UG level, undergraduate level. The seats are of a higher number, but then when it comes to PG level, the seats it gets decreasing. So that is something the government has to work on, the education system.
About the competitive exam part, I'm telling this from my personal experience because I prepared for one of the toughest exams in India, like NEET, and it was one hell of a journey because I was mentally drained, I was physically drained. It was the toughest period of my time, and I think many students will agree with me. I've seen my peers struggling with me as well. So I think the government should understand that this country is hugely populated, and they should not turn this blind eye, and they should start being more efficient in giving us these institutions that we deserve. It's not like everybody who doesn't get a seat in their state or in this country can afford to go to a foreign medical college. It's not possible for everybody. So I think it's the government's responsibility to provide for its own citizens. No, it's for the country also. It's for the country, it's for the citizens. So I think they must step up.
Last 3 minutes.
Another point I want to talk about is reservation. Of course, reservations are really necessary for the people who need upliftment. But nowadays, like considering a student, his mom might be having a very good job, but then considering the status of the father, any gender, like they start giving based on his status, they start giving reservations and scholarships for economically backward classes, but I do think that is not really necessary. I am not rejecting reservations, but then I think that reservations are needed for those who really want it.
But reservations were not brought in for economic upliftment. They were a source of social upliftment in our country, and we have not reached a space where you can do away with reservations and you can like give an option to choose reservations, right?
Yeah. There is like reservations based on income, no? Sometimes you used to look at the income of one particular parent, but that they might be rich. But I am not agreeing to that.
But that's a policy of every scheme that you have, right? So you cannot add more filters to the reservation program so that then it will be useful to nobody. Like as if your argument is that it should be checked, but that will not work in a society like ours.
I am getting.
Now, if your argument is that the reason people do get reservation is not based on their economic status, but based on primarily or based on their caste status,
Yeah,
right?
I am not rejecting that.
So then what is the argument?
I am rejecting reservations based on false income.
Yeah, but you're not explicitly saying it, but the argument is that yes, there are socially backward caste people who are well-to-do, but that does not mean that they do not deserve the reservation because they're economically well enough, right? Because it's not a poverty alleviation scheme as it says.
Yeah, I'm not talking about these marginalized people, but then there are people who get reservations based on their income.
Yeah. But that's a very minority. So how is it related to reservation in the first? If you're talking about EWS, it's not related to reservation in its original scheme, right? So I don't understand what is.
I'm talking about reservation based on this income. Like many people used to get reservations based on the income, no, considering one parent's income.
Speaking about all this, like, these are apart, but as Sneha, she said earlier also, that the fault is not about the education system actually. The major chunk of this unemployment comes under government only. So I think the Department of Education, the Ministry of Education and the government as a whole has to like compare with each other and do some mission or some, they should have a mission to make a bright India. Not in the sense of these marks or this reservation or anything. The skillful person should come out from wherever they are.
I think it's more than just thinking to be an employee. I think it's okay to be an employer also, like being a boss also.
That's your time, 20 minutes. Thank you.